Hello everybody, my name is Skyslasher and welcome to a brand new Five Nights at Freddy's theories and speculation video, and it is a big one today folks. I am telling you, I think I may have finally solved Five Nights at Freddy's 4. As we all know, the horror master and a guy who makes me want to rip my hair out, Scott Cawthon, has always been saying, no one has solved Five Nights at Freddy's 4. We don't know exactly what he means by that, but I think I have a solution that kind of rips up the foundation of everything we've thought of so far, but it also solves a lot of jarring questions about the series. So, yeah, without wasting any time, let's go ahead and jump straight into this and roll the intro. So, Scott Cawthon has been releasing a series of books called the Fazbear Frights, and each one contains 3 stories. And that's what they are. They're stories from the game. They're, quote, from all different corners of the canon. So this doesn't necessarily mean they are game canon or book canon. They're kind of their own thing. But Scott has also said that these books have a purpose, which is to fill in the missing pieces of the games, or the story in general. So I want to bring your attention to the final 2 books and 2 stories, or well, 1 story from each one of the 2 books. The first one we're going to be going over today is from the 4th book, and it's called Step Closer. Now, as a quick summary, Step Closer follows a family. It has a dad, a mom, and a younger brother, and an older brother. That already feels a lot like FNAF 4. Now, the thing about this that I want to bring up quickly is that the mom and the dad are divorced in this story, and if we remember Five Nights at Freddy's 4, there was a female's room that didn't make sense. We all assumed it was a sister, but it could have been the mother. This whole time we've been thinking they live with their dad, but what if they live with their mom instead? Which would explain the female's room. Now that's just a mini theory, but let's get into the deeper parts of this story. So, the story goes, Pete resents Chuck a lot. Since the parents are divorced, Pete has to take care of Chuck. And Chuck loves Freddy Fazbear's, but he doesn't like Foxy. He's terrified of Foxy. So, Pete hatches a plan to scare Chuck. He takes him back to the maintenance room where Foxy's being worked on that day, and he opens the curtain. There's a button or a switch, I believe it is, to open up the curtain, and he struggles with it, but he finally does. Now, anyone who's familiar with this series would expect this series of events to take place. Chuck is killed by Foxy, and some way or another, just like Five Nights at Freddy's 4, the younger brother is killed by an animatronic due to the older brother trying to scare him. But that's where the story stops making direct parallel sense. This is almost where Chuck, the younger brother, and Pete, the older brother, switch places. See, when the curtain opens, Chuck runs away. Chuck actually doesn't die at all in this story, so the younger brother lives. Pete, however, has to listen to Foxy sing a song, and it sort of mesmerizes him. Foxy sings over and over, "If you want to be a pirate too, all you've got to do is lose an eye and an arm." So, the rest of the story, it kind of doesn't matter for today's theory. The rest of the story goes, Pete keeps finding himself in accidents that almost take out his eye or his arm. But at the end of the story, that's where things get fascinating. Pete, on his way back to Freddy's, gets hit by a truck. Now, this whole time he's survived, but all of a sudden he gets hit by a truck and dies. Now, early in the story, there's this plot where the mom signs them up to be organ donors. And, surprise, surprise, what does Pete donate in his death? An eye and an arm. But that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is that Pete almost possesses his own dead corpse and watches them operate on him. Now, there's a few details that I want to bring up. Chuck likes to go, like I mentioned, he loves Freddy Fazbear's, the younger brother. But he goes with his friends. Now in Five Nights at Freddy's 4, we all know the story that the younger brother dies, and the older brother likes Freddy's with his friends. So there's already this weird thing where they're switching roles for some reason. But I think I have an answer for that. Now, in the opening scene, Pete has a dream. This is the beginning of the book. Pete has this dream with Foxy, with sharp teeth, an open jaw, and yellow eyes in his bedroom. I want to bring up in his bedroom because I want to draw your attention to the survival logbook for a moment. We know Golden Freddy's name, or the entity that possesses him, is Cassidy. That's the name of the vengeful spirit from Ultimate Custom Night. We know this because we found it in the logbook and the crossword. And we also know that Golden Freddy is actually Fredbear. We know this because every time we see Golden Freddy, he's got a purple hat and a purple bow tie, just like Fredbear in the minigames. And you may be thinking, well, in the beginning, he had a black hat and a black bow tie. Scott has said he's retconned a few things over the years, and I think that's one. Because if we remember, Yellow Bear was actually the name. Golden Freddy was just an Easter egg for a game that was supposed to be a one-off. So I think Golden Freddy is Fredbear, the one and the same. Now, if the crying child, the younger brother from FNAF 4, we know he's killed by Fredbear, wouldn't it make sense that that's Cassidy? Because that spirit would be possessing Fredbear. So that's just something. So I'm bringing this up because I'm going to call the younger brother Cassidy and the older brother Mike from now on, rather than Peter, Chuck, or Crying Child and Michael. And we do have a pretty good idea that the older brother is Michael. Now here's my theory. I think I have an explanation for I will put you back together. I think that when Michael accidentally kills Cassidy, William is outraged. William then kills Michael and his friends. And the reason I would put that out there is because take a look at the scene. We have Golden Freddy by himself, and then we have standing together Foxy, Bonnie, Chica, and Freddy. I find this strange because what is the Happiest Day minigame about? 5 spirits. And the puppet. But Golden Freddy by himself, at his birthday, and 4 others. A Foxy, a Bonnie, a Chica, and a Freddy. I think they're all the same. I think William kills his son Michael and his friends, and they are the original missing children. I believe that he stuffs them into the suits of the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, the one that gets shut down and reopens in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. And we also know that because Five Nights at Freddy's 2 takes place in 1987, we know that there was a scene of murders in 1985 because of the first book, Into the Pit. There's a scene where this kid comes across the murders in the year 1985. So I think the original missing kids are Michael and his friends, but you may be thinking, how's that possible? Michael lives on to become the protagonist of what's it called? Five Nights at Freddy's sister location. Well, yeah, that's what I thought too at first, but let me bring your attention to this. The other story that I want to talk to you about today is the new kid from the 3rd book. Now, this story tells of a kid named Cassidy. Cassidy is new in school. He makes friends with 2 kids. I can only remember one of their names because the other one isn't that important. The one kid is Devin, and Devin's friend. The point is that Cassidy's popular, he's cool, he draws attention to himself just by walking down a hallway. He's everything Devin wants to be. So out of a fit of rage, Devin takes him to an old abandoned Freddy Fazbear's at the end of the town, or whatever, the edge of the town. And he lures him into the Freddy Fazbear's, or the Golden Freddy suit, a yellow bear, so this is Fredbear. And, quote, "It was like it was meant to be." So this kid Kelsey, gets in the suit and gets spring-locked and killed. He jerks around, he's making these weird sounds, he's jerking, and then eventually he stops moving, the blood drains out of the suit, and Devin runs away. Well, then about a week later, Devin comes back, and he finds Kelsey is gone. So he sticks his arm into the suit to try and find him, only for the jaws to snap shut. But then the mouth starts to open, and what he sees is a different person, a kid with black hair inside of the suit. The final scene, though, is Kelsey at a new school without a single scratch on him, making friends with 2 more kids. I want to bring this up because it says something. Like it was meant to be implies that Kelsey was meant to be in the Fredbear suit. But he's not. He lives. Now there's multiple times throughout this story, The New Kid, where Kelsey is described robotic. Like specifically Devin thinks to himself he'd like to stab Kelsey just to see if he's a robot. because no kid says stuff like that. So it's this theme that there's a robot that dies in Purple Freddy, dies in Golden Freddy, makes it out to live another day unharmed, but there is a body in Golden Freddy. So here's what I think happened. In the death of Cassidy, William kills the original missing kids, his son Michael, and 3 others. Then rebuilds Cassidy as Michael. Clearly Cassidy died in a very public way. You know, you're in a restaurant, you died, you can't just bring him back to life, so he had to build Michael. Now, you may be thinking, what do I have to support this? There's never been reason to believe that they're one and the same person, that Cassidy is now Michael. But we do know in Sister Location, Michael is already a robot. Otherwise, he would have died when he was scooped. He would be dead, but he's already robotic. So, and that does explain a lot, like, how could he still move? He's possessing the body at that point. But there is actual evidence to say that they are one and the same. I bring your attention to the survival logbook. Now in this book, if you don't know, there are 2 dialogues. There's the red text from Mike, and there's the gray text from whoever's talking to Mike through the book. We know it's Mike because in the beginning of the book, it's the name is Mike. But watch this, it's scratched out. Now, a few things about Mike that we know from his red text and his red drawings are, 1, he watches The Immortal and the Restless, the show from Five Nights at Freddy's 5, the protagonist watches, who we believe to be Mike, and he knows about exotic butters and casual bongos. Again, things only Mike would know. But then, he draws Nightmare Fredbear. The only person who knows about Nightmare Fredbear is Cassidy. So how does Mike know exactly what Nightmare Fredbear looks like? Now, besides that, that's interesting. But the bigger connection comes from who's ever talking to Mike. First question, do you miss them? Now this one I'm bringing up first because I don't really have a good answer for it. I don't really know much about why they would say that. Next, was your favorite ride the carousel? I bring this up because I believe Mike is Mike Schmidt, Jeremy Fitzgerald, because I believe one of the gravestones, yes, on the gravestones one of the kids' name is Jeremy, so I think Mike uses that name as an alias to get into Five Nights at Freddy's 2, because we know the story is mainly about Michael going to correct the wrongs of his father. Now, some more questions. Does he still talk to you? That's very interesting, because it alludes to Golden Freddy plushie, the one that Michael uses with the radio that we found in the Sister Location office. So that's very fascinating. That's another thing only Cassidy should know about. Then do you have dreams? Another thing that connects to Cassidy, not Michael, but is being asked to Michael. Again, another one. Was your favorite childhood toy a plastic purple telephone? Another thing connecting to Cassidy and not Michael. But this is where it gets very intense. What do you remember? Implying that Michael doesn't remember something. Then, do you remember your name? Of course he does, it's Michael. Why would you ask that, unless Michael isn't his name? Unless he had another name before Michael. And finally, the thing that forces us into this realization is, the party was for you. This undoubtedly says, Michael is Cassidy. The older brother is the younger brother. Now, there are some odd loose ends in this, but I genuinely do think at this point that if we think back to four games, one story, this is the beginning of the story. This is where we see the death of Cassidy, and how that turns into the missing children's incident, and everything else. Now, I think I have another theory that I'm working on about why William does what he does, and I'll get into that in another video. But yeah. So for today's theory, just to sum it up, Michael accidentally kills Cassidy. Cassidy's body and spirit go on to possess the suit, but William creates another Cassidy, essentially, but in the shape of William, And this Cassidy is Michael. Michael goes on. The real Michael is dead, one of the missing children. But this Michael goes on to become the protagonist of the games that we play in. And we all know how this story ends in Five Nights at Freddy's 6 with the fire. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, smash like, hit subscribe, maybe share it with your friends who like Five Nights at Freddy's. I think this is a very interesting theory, and I think you know, if you've got any ideas about it, make sure to put them down in the comments below, and I might feature them in my next theory. If you know, you bring up a point that I didn't think about or something, that could be very interesting. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time. Roll the outro.